No spoilers in this video. I've just woken up the morning following the big release, the start of Icebrood Saga, and here I wanted to run through some patch notes for you guys, talk about the trailer, which they delayed until right now when the patch actually came out, and give you some first impressions. No spoilers in this video whatsoever, don't worry about that. We'll mostly be running around here in the open world as we discuss what this was like. So this is a weird one for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's not necessarily normal living world anymore. It's living world sagas. So what does that mean we really expect from a patch? And then beyond that, it's not even being branded as an episode. It's the prologue. It's the introduction to a broader thing. And prologues we have kind of seen in Guild Wars before. We've seen like epilogue release with the end of season 2 with a little dead end bar recap. We saw like a prologue mini instance at the start of POF where we're kind of just running around in Lion's Arch. So what does a prologue mean to them as far as the saga is concerned? I have to say, going in, my expectations were fairly low. I thought this would be something fairly minor, maybe a couple of mini games, not too much story. I wasn't the only one cynical. A few people thought that, say, that cutscene we got from the presentation featuring various char would be like the vast majority of the story altogether, and we weren't going to see much else, that we were going to see a very small map, maybe even dry top sized. So what did we get in the end? Well, it blew all my expectations away, which is brilliant. This does not feel like a prologue, guys. This could have been called episode 1. It has just as much story as you would have experienced in any of those other season 4 patches. It kind of does the format where you load in, you get some instance and some story, then you do a bunch of map stuff, and then you lead out with some instances and story. I wouldn't have been surprised if there was just like one story instance and that was it. But no, this is exactly like Dragonfall. Like if you think of Dragonfall, we went in, we did some instances, there was brilliant high quality stuff, then it was just map and stuff on the back. It's the same here. So yeah, I'm actually now much more optimistic about the saga, just because this feels like a fully fledged release, and yet they only wanted to call it a prologue. I don't know realistically whether this does mean every patch we get later, and we definitely will be as far as the story seems to be concerned going into the Shiver Peaks next. In fact, at the presentation, the devs talked about that. I don't know whether we'll really expect those to be huge. You got to think about the way that their living world is structured, in that this team making this release possibly had been working on this since even when Jahai got released, right? They added the Jahai map way back when we got this, and then they started working on this. We might not see like the ripples of the team changes and some of the layoffs and things that happened earlier until later, I guess. But this patch itself was brilliant. The map was bigger, the story was longer, and all of generally a very high quality. I didn't see a lot of places where they're cutting corners around here. The aesthetic of the map and how it lines up to Eye of the North in Guild Wars 1, and, you know, whether you really like the big saturated stuff, I guess is more of a personal thing. Some people like more than other people. But I have to say, one of the big events I was kind of curious about on this release was the rock concert. So there is a stage area that pretty much all the teasers and even the main trailer we're constantly looking at. You know, we've had all that metal music going on everywhere, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I thought that would be a huge part of the release. Really, it's just one event, but it is a fantastic event. So I've captured all this footage and fun stuff of the stream that I did yesterday as we played through, where you get all these different things you can do. You can be a backup performer on the stage, you can help keep the amps powered, you can climb around in mosh pits, you can fire fireworks into the sky. As the devs actually wrote, it sounds like 3 full-fledged metal tracks with like Guild Wars lyrics and stuff that you can actually listen to in-game. The design of some of the other events really impressed me as well. There's one on this map where you have to carry fire across a long like road to light an effigy at the far side, and players like have to cooperatively bounce the fire along. Here, it's here. You basically got to get the fire all the way up this road, and it's a really interesting like new format of dynamic event. This impressed me. One of my favorite formats they did for last season was when we went to Thunderhead Peaks, and they had the idea that there was a meta in the north and then there was a meta in the south, and you got half a key, and then you got to go to a big chest every day. Well, they've taken that, and it's a little bit similar to, say, Bitterfrost Frontier from Season 3, you know, where you had to get a bit for a potion, a bit for a potion, bit for a potion, bit for a potion, and then you can go into the last area. Well, they've done that again here. There's 4 separate big metas that you can do on certain timers. Each gives you a different key for each of the legions, and then you can take them to this place here called the Cavern of the Khan-Er, which I know you guys are probably thinking, oh my god, I thought you said no spoilers, WP. Don't worry, it's not like there's a big Khan-Er story in this. It's just basically a treasure room that you can go to. So I think they've really nailed the design here. Even in terms of like achievement quantity, so this is kind of an arbitrary thing to look at. But if we go to the story journal, the prologue for Bound by Blood is now available. They did something interesting here. You actually unlock emotes now for getting the meta. It's not like they're doing a single gear set throughout the whole season. You actually unlock further ones. Be interested to see how enticing this is to other players. But look at this as well. To get the meta, there's a huge amount of achievements this time. For example, if we were to go to War Eternal and scroll down, you'll see the list is way short. This was Dragonfall, guys, right? The list is way short, and here we're seeing this. I mean, some of the other ones in the previous season were, you know, to do their mastery, the meta achievement, sorry, were pretty long too. And what each tick constitutes in terms of playtime and stuff, we can't say for sure. You know, I'm only really just getting started, but this doesn't feel like it cut corners. That's really what I'm trying to get at. The last big thing I really want to talk about for first impressions is strike missions. So these were not at all what I felt they were from the presentation or even any of the subsequent interviews. I actually think the devs kind of dropped the ball on just what they're doing here. So I thought they'd be like this weird, like, open worldy thing. We knew that they were going to be like, oh, this is supposed to get people into raids, or they're going to be kind of raidy. It's going to be like a good way to reuse, you know, certain boss fights and stuff we'll play. But what did it all mean? Well, here I'll tell you guys. Essentially, remember at Vanilla where we get a dungeon, you complete the story of the dungeon, and you get to revisit, and now there's a new story set after Destiny's Edge had come through, and you have like a whole, you're revisiting the area, but you're actually playing a totally different path, and sometimes you'll go left through one door instead of going right. The story took you, and it's a little bit more challenging. That idea of explorable mode dungeons, you know, bouncing off of story, that's exactly what strike missions are. But instead of them being in little dungeons, they're out of story instances. So again, to be completely spoiler free, but there is a area that you will go to in this patch. It's actually down here, this bottom left place, the Shiver Peaks Pass. It's not a part of the main open world map. It has nothing to do with the open world map. It is only a story area. For some of you old schoolers, maybe, if you think about Dry Top, remember when we're chasing Erin through like this special little chasm place here, and it's not actually a part of any regular Dry Top, it's a story exclusive area? Well, that's what this is. There's a story exclusive area that in theory you would only ever be able to play once, and the devs build that area of the map and it looks beautiful. It reminds me of the Snowblind Fractal. It's very cool, and there's a certain story that happens there, and then you'd move on, and it's like, well, that's inefficient, right? Well, strike missions allow you, where you go up to this portal here, to re-enter that area, and now you have different content. Like, you'll load in, there is voice acting in there. It's pretty arbitrary what the story is actually talking about, but you're returning to the past after the story is done, just as you did with Explorable. There's new dialogue. There's like new areas of the terrain that you interact with. You're like now climbing around and stuff around there, which you weren't doing before. And yes, it ends with a boss, and the boss is something you briefly see in story, but now has lots of new mechanics and can be played anywhere between 5 to 10. So 5 to 10 different players. You can have a really easy version of it at 10, or you can call back on players, call back, and then maybe have a more challenging experience at 5-man, or even going lower. In fact, some people have a theory that you can actually solo this if it wasn't for like the enraged timer and stuff on there. So I actually think most of the discussion and most of the impression I had about strike missions before this patch was completely wrong. People are obsessed with this as being like a mechanic to get people into raids. And let's talk about raids. I'm actually not interested in that side of things at all. And I don't think that strike missions, it's fair to judge them purely on that merit. In fact, the strike mission's really easy. It's super easy. In fact, the whole patch really is very easy. I think the devs need to look at their balancing and you know, how much that the players are engaged. I'm pretty sure if you've got 10 players of any variety, you're probably going to be able to take this stuff out. And so it does have a bit of value because you're going to learn like what enraged timers are. You're going to experience 10-man content. You're hopefully going to make friends that then maybe you can bring into raids. But I don't actually think that strike missions are any better for building communities that will then go raid than some of the existing stuff in the game, like fractals, right? Which I definitely think are one of those things that take noobs at T1, and then by the time you're doing CMs at T4, you're ready to actually go do raids. I don't think strike missions are really all about that. I just think that they are repeatable, efficient reuse of some of those exclusive story areas and bosses and assets and things that now the devs can get a little bit more work out of. And it's so much more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would just be a boss. Like, literally, okay, it's the same boss. It's just now way tankier. Maybe there's a couple of new animations on it. And an enraged time where it's balanced for 10-man go. Strike missions weren't that. They're way easier than I expected, but then there's loads more quality in them than I expected, like all the new voice acting, and it's actually its own story. It's not just a repeat. So I know that I've got a lot of fans out there like me who really want a Zaitan Glory of Tyrius strike mission, and I think it's possible. But the interesting thing is, if all the strike missions are like set after the story is concluded, maybe you can't do that with Zaitan or Morgemoth or whatever, but we'll see. If they redo like the Morgemoth Nightmare Moat and they redo the Zaitan thing and maybe even add one with Kralkatorik's Torment and stuff, I think that would be pretty fantastic. So strike missions have been a really cool part, and I love the idea that like episode 1 might not just have one strike mission, it might have multiple strike missions that you can actually go in and play. They seem to be on they're very rewarding, and they seem to be, it's either daily or weekly. I'm not entirely sure on how regularly you do it, but more reasons to LFG and just play this repeatable stuff. So yeah, those are my first impressions. That's some of the stuff that I really liked. There are a couple of downsides. Let's compare this to an expansion, all right? So, because that's what ArenaNet seems to want us to do. The first thing to think about is, well, is there a new character select? Some people were theorizing that. The presentation had all that beautiful art and stuff. And, you know, we know that the guild chat backgrounds are going to change out of the Path of Fire pyramids. But we're still on the Path of Fire deserty character select. Maybe this will change with episode 1, right? Maybe that's where they're looking at that. Do we have a new, you know, patcher, a new little launcher as well? No, that's not any different. When you actually go in-game and you look at the list of story journal options and like the color, the backing to them, well, is it like a nice new blue shade now because we care about the Jormag story? No, it's still the Path of Fire color, okay? So, you know, we now got 3 gray ones, 2 green ones, and we're into our third, you know, purple Path of Fire one. So for all these reasons, it kind of doesn't feel like a big new thing. And I know a lot of you guys are going to listen to my commentary and you think that this kind of stuff's arbitrary, but it's those small flavorful arbitrary things that build to that big impression, right? And I do think that they're important. So I guess I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but we'll see. Maybe that will change later on. The devs have actually had some minor issues. For example, when we go to open world and we mouse over all the maps, you get the beautiful art representing the loading screen of said map. But then here, the new one, Grothmar Valley, they didn't hook it up. So there's little things like this that I'm sure that they'll be working for. So, yeah, I guess the verdict is still out for episode 1, but my expectations were smashed on this one. Totally smashed, and I hope that that's a sign for good things to come. The other thing I want to look at today is the patch notes, which really weren't that substantive, so we'll just slap these in here at the end. First of all, you had a bunch of Black Lion stuff. You guys can pause the video if you really want to check this out. It's, you know, a new Black Lion chest, a couple of new skins, things like that you might be interested in getting. What I would say here is that statuettes have updated, that another new die set came in, and check this out. You can now unlock the dance moves from How to Dance Volume 1 as full-on emotes. They're known as /step, /gear grind, and /shuffle. So when I read this on the patch notes, I thought, how cool would that be to put at the end of achievements? And that's exactly what the devs are doing, so that's nice too. It's nice to see some Mac client changes. As for the other stuff for the game, Bound by Blood is represented simply as one line, as they often do. The Elder Dragon Kralkatorik is dead. It's time to celebrate. Bangar Ruinbringer is hosting an all-Legion rally in the Blood Legion homelands, and he invites the pack to join in and learn to party as only Shah can. I know a lot of you guys want my opinions on the story, and believe me, you will be getting them just in another production where we can be a little bit more heavy on the spoilers. They did a change for the Sunken Treasure, but this is just a tooltip thing, so we don't have to worry. This is to do with the crate keys you can get and the Aqua, you know, headpiece, the Ascended one with the swim speed infusions. They fixed a bug for some of the foods with the Cooking 500, which, by the way, they've rounded out some more cooking recipes on this map as well. All the items and stuff were pretty good. And then, not real skill balance here. Necromancer, the skill 5 on the Greatsword, the pull, that would cancel cast if you tried to use it on someone behind you, even if you weren't WSing. Now you automatically turn around. And Dark Path, this one's actually relevant, okay? Holding down the key that activates the skill no longer immediately fires Dark Pursuit, and fixed an issue in which the projectile did not track its target. So this is the huge bit. This is the newly reworked Death Shroud 2. You can check my balance coverage on this from about a month ago when this came in. And it's a cool idea what they changed, in that you're not forced to teleport anymore, and they made it AoE. But with that also, they changed the projectile tracking and kind of nerfed it in a way, because the projectile was missing and it wasn't using the Y-axis as well as it could have and so on. Now, hopefully, it's gone back to its previous functionality in terms of actually landing, but also now it's got the AoE and the separated teleport, which will be brilliant. Lastly as well, instant reflexes fixed a bug that prevented it from resetting on a PvP match start, which, you know, if you're a thief that instantly, you know, engages on the cross, then maybe this could have affected you, and that's not a rare circumstance, but in general, it's just a bit of housekeeping. So there you go, that's what they did with the patch notes. You should have seen the trailer footage. I will have spliced in at some point as the video goes along. The trailer wasn't very impressive to me, I have to say, and they're very low viewership on YouTube with it too. I don't think this was a good move. I like that the devs are playing with the marketing, and I like that they're looking for new things. I think the better thing to do, though, for this release, for next release, is go the opposite direction now. Releasing the trailer on the day doesn't seem to matter much, and the whole "it's live right now" doesn't seem to matter much. I would say do a trailer 2 weeks before patch. Try that now. See how it feels with 2 weeks of hype. So, you know, that little gap, just as the community starts getting really angsty and losing rest, maybe around there, especially with slightly more frequent patches, that could work. That's what I'd like to see a bit more. As to the quality of the trailer itself, I don't know. It had some nice little animations and things in there, certainly. But it's not as cool as a lot of the Living World Season 4 stuff. Do you guys remember some of those really stylistic, badass trailers from Season 4? Like the Joko ones? Oh my gods. And they really didn't do that great here with Icebreed Saga. But, I mean, they had other media that came out with the presentation, so maybe you think that's good. There you go. That's it. First impressions from the patch. Drop your first impressions down below, and do warn people if you're going to do spoilers. But let's get a good chat, nice little discussion about it, and I'll be back very soon for more details about the story and my takeaway. I'm actually going to play it a whole other time now. I'm going to go through it twice to really solidify what I know about it and have some more fun. So that's it, guys. I'll see you for more from the Blood Legion Homelands very soon.